And we now welcome Ms. Ameera Shah for the keynote address.
Hi everyone, and I'm so embarrassed because some 3 people have introduced me now. So just want to first say hello to all the dignitaries on the stage, honorable ministers, Mr. Dempo, Mr. Raj D'Souza, and all the other people in the audience here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Honorable CM, I think, is not here yet, but to him as well. And really look forward to meeting more of you post the event today. I think between the leadership team of all the political dignitaries as well as all the leaders as part of GCCI, I think it's very clear that Goa is in very good hands. I can say this very clearly that we all know Goa has moved from being the sleepy tourism town that it once was to a bustling city which has now got much better infrastructure and lots of investment opportunities. And it's really exciting to see where Goa will go from where it is today to the next stop of becoming a major metro which draws serious investment, serious business in the time to come. I think we all know people are already very excited about real estate in Goa. And really the question is going to be, how do we now make Goa the bastion for many, many other kinds of investments? If I'm just sharing my journey a little bit, and Srini talked a little bit about how we went from sort of one lab to where we are today. We've got about 185 labs. We've got about 3,600 centers, mostly in India, but also in Africa, in 5 countries in Africa. We've gone from having 40 employees to about 5,200 employees. And from that, like we said, that one lab, which was all around one doctor, to becoming a corporate brand which now stands for no individual, but actually many people's thoughts and processes put together, but not dependent on any one individual. And I always very happily say that I'm the most dispensable MD in the country because that's exactly what I want my business to be, not dependent on me at all. So in this journey, which has been about 21 years now, there's been lots of good and bad, and I can only tell you it's been a roller coaster. There have been lots of ups and some serious downs, but I would not have had it any other way because I genuinely believe it's the roller coaster that has brought the resilience, the renewed commitment, and the avoidance of boredom. I think for most of us who have run businesses for a long time, at some point you get bored. At some point you get burnt out. At some point you're like, oh God, there's more of the same. And when things are like this or is a little bit straight, then it becomes even more boring. So the way I choose to look at all my obstacles and whatever challenges that have come my way is that has kept my life interesting for the last 21 years. And it's made me every time to sit and think, okay, now how do I handle this problem or how do I handle this challenge? And that's actually kept me, I know for most people, if I say young, you're going to laugh, but that's how I feel. It's kept me younger. So what have been the challenges along the way, right? I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges that's been there has been the market challenge. In healthcare, the biggest issue is that there is no regulation framework. And I'm using the present tense because the challenge that was 20 years ago is still the challenge today, that in India, anybody can start a lab. Anybody can operate a lab. You don't have to have a qualification. You don't need much capital. You can just start. And you can then, through bad practices, incentivization to different stakeholders, you can start to do a little business. You don't have to run the test. You don't have to use qualified people. You don't have to do anything because nobody's checking. This is a really scary situation when our treatment is based on diagnostics. Based on the report, your doctor will treat you for cancer or not treat you for cancer. Based on the report, your kidney can be removed or not. Now, if that report is not correct, then the challenge is the doctor makes a wrong treatment decision and the poor patient has to suffer for it. And this was the gap that I saw 20 years ago, which was to say that in a market where nothing is regulated, how do you stand different from everybody else? It cannot be price, because if we give a price of 100 rupees for a test, the people who are not doing the test can easily give 80 rupees, so you can never compete on cost. So the competition, the USP, has to be quality and has to be expertise. And in time, as people experience that quality and expertise, they will keep coming back to you, despite other people not following right practices. We will shine like the lotus in a muck of dirt and stand tall away from everyone else. Now, this was a very hard choice to make, because in an industry when everybody is going in one direction and you go in the other direction, it takes time. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes commitment. Excuse me, because every day my teams were coming to me and saying, oh, but if we do this, madam, we'll grow faster. If we do this, we'll grow faster. But doing this and this meant going fundamentally against the values of what I believe were going to be good for the long term of the business. So I think the first choice that we chose to make was to focus on the long-term sustainability and not the short-term success. That today, with so many competitors coming in, has remained our moat, because doctors will remember us as the people who have the maximum expertise. The second challenge that came up was the organizational and the financial challenges. We were a single lab. We had about 6-7 crores of revenue. We were very profitable. We had a couple of crores of profit. But I didn't come from a business family, so we didn't have any money to invest outside of this. So the question was, what do we do? The choice we chose to make was from 2001 till 2015. We chose to put all the profits of the lab and the business back into the business. I took a salary. I remember my first salary was 15,000 rupees in 2001. In 2010, I think it was 1.5 lakh. And in 2015, I think it was 3-4 lakhs approximately per month, right? But we chose, even though the business was becoming more successful, not to enjoy the benefits of the lifestyle that you get when you take the cash out of the business, but we chose to put it back all into the business. And then we also raised private equity 3 times so that we had an ability to keep growing organically and a little bit inorganically. But again, that choice to nurture the child, to take all the capital, and not to nurture ourselves separately, but to nurture the child, I think was a very important decision in actually getting to where we were today. And the third disadvantage, or the third challenge, was a personal one. I was 21-year-old young girl with no medical degree, and a father who's a pathologist. So the obvious assumption was कि ठीक है, she's come to India, now she'll do this for a few months, वो bore हो जाएगी, फिर शादी हो जाएगी, फिर बच्चे हो जाएंगे, फिर भूल जाएगी. So people didn't respect you, people didn't trust you, people didn't take you seriously. And that was the personal challenge. And honestly, when I thought about it, and I thought, how can I solve this challenge? I realized I can't solve the challenge. There's no way you can do anything about this except to put your head down, do your work, and in time, people will on their own either choose to take you seriously and respect you or not. And I think the work always speaks louder than the words, and which is what we then did. So taking these 3 different challenges, the market challenge, the organizational financial challenge, and the personal challenge, I think the goal was very simple. Be the best at what you are in the industry. Be the best at what you do. Do it with a focused mindset, like a horse with blinders. Be extremely committed and resilient towards it, and be willing to make the choices of denying yourself some comforts while you're growing the business. And I think these were the 3 mantras that helped me overcome these challenges in the last 20 years. I think for all of us sitting here who are all running businesses, we all know the India opportunity. I don't think any of us needs to belabor what a great opportunity India is, what a great growth rate we have. I know when I'm doing road shows and meeting investors all across the world, as China is coming down, it's very clearly that India is going up. And part of that is what we are doing in India and how they see such a large market as such a large domestic opportunity. But it's also partly because investments are made on relative basis. When something looks less interesting, something else looks more interesting. Thank you. So this is our time. This is India's time, the next decade, where we are going to see incredible amount of investment come into India, into a variety of industries. It's already been coming from a private equity perspective, and it will certainly come from a public equity perspective. Now the real question is, do Indian entrepreneurs have what it takes to really scale up and to make businesses that require large amounts of capital, that require large amounts of investment, and make it scalable, which is not dependent only on the promoter, where the promoter is being ethical and being real and making sure that they're building the organization in a way that is sustainable. There's no piggy bank approach to it where, I'm going to treat the business as my private piggy bank, which obviously investors don't like. and be able to really look at this as a long-term sustainable opportunity where the future of the entrepreneur is tied in with the future of the investor. If the business does well, the investor makes money, and the promoter makes money. And I think if we are able to do this, and I think Goa is sitting in such an interesting place to do this, because suddenly there is a light shining on Goa. There is a light, people are interested in talking about Goa from a perspective of business, of investment. And what I said, it's for real estate. How can we really now do this in other industries, I think is the opportunity. I can share with you some of my key learnings, some of which were actually mistakes that I made, and then I had to rectify later on, and some which were key learnings that I had during the time that hopefully may be of some help. I don't think there is any, people talk a lot about hard work. And I think most people in India work hard. I mean, I honestly don't know anybody who doesn't work hard. So I think hard work is a given. But what I found was really helpful for me was obsession. Just being obsessed. 24/7, eating, sleeping, and breathing. What you do with a purpose of not making money, but a purpose of pursuing excellence. If you are in the industry of manufacturing steel pipes, how can you be the best at manufacturing steel pipes? If you are in the business of tourism, how can you be the best in that? And I think that obsession with just pursuing excellence really helped me build my business in a very strong way. I think the second thing that I think all of us as entrepreneurs constantly have to do is we have to balance things. We have to be focused on the micro, but still focused on the macro. We have to be focused on the short-term ability to survive, but still keep looking at the broader picture of the long-term sustainability. We have to have confidence to project to the world, but internally we have to be paranoid every minute about competition and what new innovation is coming that's going to disrupt our sector. And this balancing act is constantly difficult for most of us. And I think the ones who can balance these things the best are the ones actually who have the best chance at success. The third thing that I had to do constantly was keep evolving as a leader. My organization is only as good or as bad as I am, which means if I stagnate in my learning, if I stagnate in my knowledge, if I stagnate in my courage, if I stagnate in my thought, the organization will stagnate. So how do I as a leader keep going outside and learning, bringing new knowledge to the table and bringing that to my teams so that my teams and me are aligned? And that's something I kept doing, whether it was going to colleges and doing short courses of 2 weeks and 3 weeks, whether it was attending things in India, whether it was just meeting people and asking a lot of questions on how did you do this, how did you manage that, building my own team of people who could guide me, whether it was through associations like YPO, whether it was through other informal associations. But constant evolution, I found, was a very important part for me. The one thing which I did not do well along the way, which I regret and I've done now, is to constantly hire talent which is smarter than me. You know, as a small MSME, we all want to do that, but what stops us is two things. One thing is compensation, because we always feel, how can we pay somebody 1 crore? How can we pay them 2 crores? How can we pay them 5 crores? It's too much money. What if they don't perform? What if they're not able to, give the returns that I need? And the second thing that stops us is that if we just bring in one good talent, how do we attract that person to the organization? If they come from big companies, what will make them come to our company? And I was not able to do this very successfully in the past, but I've done it now in the last few years. And I found two things that helped me. One thing is your passion of purpose and your journey and your description of your story and what you're trying to build for the future, the impact it has on the world, the impact it has on society, can be a very powerful attraction tool. Even a person working for the largest companies, finally, after being CEO, being vice president, being whatever in big companies, each person at some point wants to make a personal impact. They want to feel they, as an individual, had an opportunity to tremendously impact an industry or impact a company. So find those people who want to make an impact, and they'll rather come to small companies because they have a more chance to make an impact there than they have in larger companies. And the second thing I did now recently was say, I'm going to put aside compensation as an issue. I'm going to pay people much more than I make because I want people who are smarter than me. So the minute you put aside the compensation issue and the minute you are able to sell your story and attract talent, if you have good people, everything else gets solved. The minute we have mediocre people, our businesses stay mediocre. And this is an investment which is 100% worth doing. But the one thing that I did follow in hiring talent was ridiculous amounts of reference checks. Right? I know it's a very small detail, but a detail that really helped me. Normally what happens is we interview 3, 4, 5 people, we like somebody and we hire them. They may give us 1 or 2 references and we hire them, right? If those are good. I did something differently, something I actually learned from someone else. One thing is I not only interviewed people, but I had a group of 3, 4 other people who I respected interview people. Because having different lens to hiring talent makes a big difference. And then comparing your notes and choosing the right person. And the second thing was do my own personal reference checks by finding connections. India is quite small. Corporate India is quite small. You can always find a connect. But I did 5, 6, 7 reference checks where I personally spoke with their bosses, their juniors, their peers, their this, that, and the other. And that's how, by doing these 2, was able to attract a really good team of people. When you have that good talent, then when you bring in good technology, you're able to implement the good technology properly. I brought in SAP in 2008 into my company, the ERP system. And from 2008 till 2019, we only were able to implement 25% of SAP features. Because the quality of my team was not good enough to know how to use it properly. So you can give the tools to people, but unless those people know how to use the tools, that's never going to be successful. So again, before you invest in tech or invest in tools, please invest in people. But technology and talent were 2 things I did not do early enough, which I had to fix later on. I think coming back to Dubai, to Goa and the opportunity it can be. You know, when I look at Goa and I think about which other city it reminds me of, where it's a small place, it doesn't have a very large population, it has certain natural resources, but certain things it doesn't have, what can it become? And the place I actually remembered the most was Dubai. The reason I thought of Dubai is because Dubai also transformed itself with having very little natural resources, not having a great amount of money, but making itself the most ridiculously attractive tourist destination by bringing in all kinds of people and creating all kinds of campaigns. And with that tourism money, they then went on to making it a great place to live. They then went on to importing talent when they didn't have that talent locally, and then now are trying to say, how can we make Dubai a great place to make it a financial city which draws great investment? I think taking a case study potentially of Dubai could be a great example for Goa. It is today already the tourism hub of India. How does it go from becoming the tourism hub from India to now importing talent and to becoming a business destination? I think there is an incredible opportunity ahead. I'm a big believer in what Goa can become from here. I think what I've seen of Goa in the last few years, it has progressed enormously on healthcare, on education, on how clean the city is, more consumption there is, a higher GDP per capita, better infrastructure. I think on most parameters, Goa is on the incline and on the up story. What is it that we can do to partner with Goa to help Goa? And this is my commitment that I look to make to Goa in the future. So one of the things that I think Goa can work on is on the healthcare side. Today, Goa is considered probably one of the largest diabetes intensive markets in the country, right? There's a large amount of diabetes here. Probably it comes from the rice, the bread, the food that is consumed locally. 26.4% of the population of Goa today is struggling in some form with diabetes. Now, while diabetes is not a very critical disease, it is a very complex disease. In any illness you have separate from diabetes is a complicator, right? And that's why it's very important to manage diabetes well. But we're very happy to partner with the government to say that, look, is there a way to do screening camps for diabetes for every single Goan in Goa so that we find out who potentially has diabetes and then be able to have a program to actually manage it. I think that is something that we could very easily bring to Goa to really help Goa potentially become diabetes free and get healthier. The second thing that we could certainly help Goa with is the Goan Health Ministry has done a great job in looking at breast cancer as something that they've been actually very proactively taking care of. You have a program in Goa which is called STEMI, where you actually screen women for breast cancer. But there is also an opportunity to screen women for cervical cancer, which is another very fast-growing illness and disease in India and also in Goa. And that is something that we could certainly help with. The third thing that we are happy to bring to the table is we have a program called MedEngage, which is actually a program for nurturing medical talent. We give 250 scholarships a year to young doctors who cannot afford medical college. And we give them scholarships to come and observe, learn, and to progress their medical career. We would be very happy to partner with the government and extend this to Goa and really take our young medical students, give them more training, give them more exposure, and create that medical talent in Goa as we are doing in other places as well. And also happy to bring training to Goa. Again, the important part in healthcare is expertise. We are happy to take that mantle of training, to take all the pathology in Goa and certainly train and up the level. And the fourth thing which we're happy to do is, and I'm happy to say that we're already the largest and the leading diagnostics player in Goa. But today we have about 25 centers and 2 labs in Goa. And our goal in the next couple of years is to double this and to make sure that every Goan has access to diagnostics, and not only access to all 4,000 tests that we are able to do, but to do it cheaper, to do it more affordable, to make it more available for every single Goan. So that is my commitment to all of you in what we will be very happy to partner with GCCI as well as the government to do, and really help Goa to take its healthcare one step forward. I'm looking forward to coming here every few years and sort of seeing the journey and the progress change. And I'm also hoping to make Goa my home in the future, and very much hoping that many people in the audience here will be friends at some stage in life. But I do know that, as I started by saying, I think you have an incredible leadership at your association as well as in the government, and I think the changes are very obvious to see. I do know Srinivas personally, and I know that his promise of taking this as a responsibility and not as an entitlement. I know the legacy is strong for him, but I also know he's so conscientious and so sincere that he's certainly going to make this association an even more incredible one in this next year to come. And please count on all our support along the way. Thank you so much.